off into the eternal realm. So
that's how it works in these games.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I'll play like 2 or 3 seasons maybe, but that's about it. So
yeah, I mean, you can also take a break. There are other games. I would warmly recommend Last Epoch. I played the shit out of that. I loved it. It's like Diablo and Path of Exile and stuff. Really good game. Gotcha. Anyway, welcome to the one, the only, except no substitute, Dresden Files podcast. And today we're talking about TV conversion. That means we're taking the books and we're making it into a TV show. And how would we do it? Like visually and like the script, can we remove something? Can we add something? That's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, welcome.
Was that scripted? Was it?
No.
Or is that?
No, God, you couldn't tell. Why did you have to ask?
I wanted to
just ruin the
give him an opportunity.
No,
I thought it was pretty good. Like,
yeah, I mean,
no, you're a vote of 1.
Anyway.
Yeah, it occurs to me my notes are on the wrong screen. I've got you guys in full screen, and I can't read my notes on that monitor now. But I know, right? Where we left off last time, we made it all the way to page 45. We're about 25% of the way through the book. Yeah, 16 pages. That's what we covered last time. I think we digressed a lot. Seen here,
because
exactly.
I'm not there to keep you on track.
Yeah. So I also hadn't done my homework. So I kind of like let it happen because all we were going to do is watch me like read the book anyway, which I'm not as good at that as the director is. So yeah, I did a little bit more homework today, but the week has been kind of wild. So, it's about half and half probably, but I covered about 20 pages myself. So we're going to get more than that done this time. So I think we kind of talked about it a little bit last time. Maybe it was in the post show, but at the end so basically it's the end of, I think it's chapter 7. The council meeting is breaking up, is about where we got. And one of the things that we had talked about was how Dresden kind of is in a daze after the whirlwind of, them deciding his fate and revealing he's the emissary and all of that stuff. And the detail I'm highlighting here is that there's a grizzled Dame Warden giving a talk, defense against the dark arts type of spiel, and how that would be a fun place to put the gal that we're going to cast as old Lucio or proper Lucio Prime. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But we could slot her in there as a visual kind of thing because Dresden doesn't.
Lucio, and we also talk about, let's put Chandler in a bowler hat and Ramirez somewhere in the background sniggering at things and just
I still argue Chandler is not an apprentice.
No, Ramirez was, though. He was the one with the blue bearded wizard guy.
So what, you think Chandler's a proper wizard?
I think at this point Chandler has been a proper wizard.
Yeah, I would say he's a warden.
They're all about the same age. They're all baby wardens.
Yeah. He's not. He is older than the baby wardens. He's never really been included with the baby wardens at any time. I think he's older. I think he's like not Lucio or Morgan generation, but somewhere in between. More like Dresden, maybe.
I mean, he could be. I don't know if we have a clear or definitive age.
Talks about it when we get to Edinburgh and he's on the gate. I think we get one of those Dresden, like monologues where he talks about like, well, he's out here because he talks too much, and also because he's kind of senior and can be trusted, but they don't want him inside. Types of stuff, but
because they don't actually trust him.
He's always, well, no, it's not a trust thing. The way Dresden comments on it is he's always like the solo warden seen at areas of points of entry, which speaks to his skill.
Gotcha.
Something that Jim said elsewhere, I don't remember where, was something that like Chandler has an affinity for time, and so therefore they don't trust him, and therefore the council wants to keep him close by.
He does the divination thing.
It is kind of bullshit, right? That some wizards, like Molly, can have this affinity for a magic that's just you will get killed if you use it.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but that's a funny thing about magic is we're the ones that put it into categories and do shit like that. And magic is just magic. It's just free and out there and covers all points. Mm-hmm. But it's because it's wildly dangerous, right? So
yeah. But if you think about it, it's almost kind of like, okay, so you were born this way. Let's say, okay, so you're gay. Like, you were born this way, but no, like we'll go back to the 1940s or whatever and punish you for it.
Yeah, why would magic be any different than the rest of the constructs we come up with?
Yeah. Right.
But they're supposed to be so enlightened.
1940s, because it's totally
According
not
to
happening
whom?
today.
Them?
So,
It's
right.
I can only speak from my own culture and point of view, and I would have to go back a while for it to really be an issue.
Right.
What, magic?
So
Magic
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. So the bullshit is the fact that like fire and entropy magic, like Ramirez uses and a bunch of other stuff, are just as destructive, and they're overtly destructive. So, they get like, oh, well, just don't use it to murder people. But if you start like the Great Chicago Fire of 2025, then, that's just whatever. So,
That's just a whoopsie.
right. Yep.
It's not their fault Chicago was so densely packed. Who could have seen it coming?
Wizards with divination magic. So.
But they're not allowed to do it. You see, there's the rub.
Or they just shouldn't talk about it. I mean, that could be a thing. So anyway, digressions. So after the meeting, he drives over to Murphy's house, and I pulled out a lot of dialogue, and there's another thing that I want to get back to, because it feels wrong to just leave it on the floor entirely. So I'll probably spend this entire series talking about it. But like, this is a really kind of big narrative, and in his narration is a big part of this chapter. And so I just feel like maybe for certain transitions, it may be a good idea to talk about stuff. And like, maybe with the show, it's not going to be as big a deal or whatnot, but he spends a lot of time narrating, like stuff that happened the previous year, the previous book, things like that. Especially in his conversation with Murphy, it's kind of tough because, I wouldn't want to intersperse his inner monologue with, his outer monologue, basically. But he's talking about, like, in case you didn't read the last book, because I'm an author and I do stuff like this, Murphy got, mind whammied, and her soul got raked and a bunch of other stuff. So I think, at least transitionally, I'm still voting for stuff like that at times. But, this is a tough chapter. If you cut all the narration out, you're just going to have to assume people have watched everything or figure out some dialogue to add in.
I mean, if it's a TV show, we do see like previously on in the beginning, and
no,
Right.
we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they absolutely do.
yeah, they
What are you
do. Are
talking
you
about?
fucking kidding me? They did that
Like
in Shogun.
every show that I watch.
I mean, I
has
haven't
a
watched Shogun
previously
yet,
on.
but okay, a lot of the shows I watch don't have the previously on.
I'm sorry, you were
X-Men
talking.
97.
Never mind.
I'm pretty sure Discovery is doing it. Like,
I-
they're all currently running.
If you're wondering why I was talking about clips from the show, is because YouTube has bombarded me with them, and I clicked them.
What's the fucking show? Wait,
I will.
Wait, you're watching clips of Shogun, but not Shogun?
right.
I will watch Shogun. I'm even contemplating like reading the book.
Well, I still have to read the book at some point too myself.
I didn't know you could read.
Yeah, well, it's the European thing. Who
It's
would have
just-
suspected?
You know,
Yeah,
Nobody
that's
knows if
integration.
those are real. Show us the words.
Show us the ones in English. No.
they're all in English.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna say they're all blank.
Yeah.
That could be anything. I can't read that from here.
Guess the Draco Malfoy was a little too subtle for this group, but
No,
okay.
Could read
But it's
it.
just
I
the
got
different
it.
Harry.
That
wizard
is a
we don't
movie
talk about.
reference and not the book reference. Therefore,
It's-
invalid. By the way.
guess what?
Oh, yeah.
It's
An
all that
ad-libbed,
I have.
an
so-
ad-libbed movie reference.
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of which, you guys want to get
Remember.
controversial real quick and get off topic?
No,
No,
Oh, okay.
but yes, I want
I
you
mean,
to do it.
I want it more than anything, but we've got to focus.
No, we don't. Who says? We don't have
What?
another book on the
Give,
horizon yet.
give us your one line so we can be frustrated about now that we know, instead of frustrated for not knowing. So,
Oh, it's there was this teacher a couple months ago in the U.S. who had this really good, like, how to argue and talk about viewpoints video with a student, and it was widely celebrated and stuff. And 3 months later, he's gotten fired now.
okay,
That was J.K. Rowling specifically they were talking about there.
gotcha.
There's like I saw a video about it today.
I didn't know Shapiro was teaching now, but okay. So
No, not Shapiro. I don't know his name.
I was just thinking somebody who debates school children and, touts his own intelligence. My bad. Different controversy. Anyway, so Murphy meets Dresden at the door of her place / her grandma's place, right? This is basically the same place. We just kind of
Yeah.
figured that out later.
Yeah, I mean, I think he describes a little bit of like she's living here, but there's like no touches of Murphy except for the katanas on the wall because everything is still covered in doilies that Grandma left over.
Yeah, she definitely. I mean, he does explicitly mention there's no decorations except for the gun cleaning kit and the 2 swords, right?
I'll say she moved in, she put down a couple of katanas, and she called it a day.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's Murphy. First of all, she's not there 90% of the time. You know.
What are you saying? She's married to her work?
She doesn't even care.
Certainly isn't married to her ex-husbands.
We're getting to that. Okay, so yeah. So she greets him with a gun, does the whole challenge thing, like, oh hey, can I come in? She's like, I don't know, can you? You know, because what if he's a shapeshifter from the Never Never trying to eat her face and not in the fun way? And so he walks across the threshold without being invited in, leaving most of his power, yada yada. So another thing that largely gets narrated that you're just going to have to assume or go read the books, I guess.
CGI effects.
That's what we should. I mean, you can have him take a breath and have a pause, like he's going to walk through cold water or something. Like there's some visual things you can do, but I guess that's going to be my one-liner when we finally get to this and I've been overruled on the narration. They're like, oh my God, why didn't you include all the narration? It's like, bro, just go read the books. It's fine. Like we made the show out of a project of love and passion for the books. And so it's okay that you have to go read the books.
These are all good with me.
Yeah, at least sparingly. I'm not saying we do it every episode or whatever. They have to be used appropriately. Whereas, like, they're kind of a defining feature of the books, you know, and so it's tough to not use them at all, and it's tough to use them as much as Jim Butcher does. You know,
there are other. What comes to mind here is the Percy Jackson show, because I read that after watching it, and that's also first person and with his narration, right? And they managed to do it pretty well, I would say, from having read the book and watched the show. It was mostly.
Does he narrate in the show? Did I miss that?
No, he doesn't really narrate. That's what I said. You can do it without getting narration in there. It's just it's hard. It's hard to try and convey these things dressed and think into the show in a proper way.
Yeah,
we need to hire an expert for that.
Sure. Well, that's us. Yeah.
No, we're a lore expert. We're not the conversion experts.
I am the everything expert.
Right. We just workshop it, and then we'll figure it out. So
one of my many facets.
Yeah, I did try to bring out some of the description or the dialogue that, you know, is key. Like, you know, one of my favorites here when he's, you know, being confronted is like, Murph, I said, relax, it's me, Hell's Bells. There isn't anything I can think of that would mimic me looking like this, you know. Even demonic fiends from the nether regions of hell have some taste. So they would have looked like this, but in
or hygiene standards, really.
Yeah. They're like, I have to live like this in hell. Now I've escaped hell and I could dress up a little bit. So, I even pulled out the decoration because, like I said, I was trying to get like scenes, because there are like there's this, and then we'll get Elaine and we'll get Harry's apartment, and so these can be important for, you know, for our decoration teams and you know, casting and stuff like that. But Murphy's own decoration was limited to the gun cleaning kit sitting on the end table beside the holster for her automatic, and a wooden rack over the fireplace that bore a pair of Japanese swords, long and short. So katana and wakizashi, if you're not familiar. Jim never uses names for stuff, but you know,
Murphy was a weeb to begin with.
Yeah, right. Well, I kind of like it too as a semi foreshadowing for what happens later with the sword and everything. That it's like we see her do Aikido and we see her fight with staves and stuff while she's training and practicing. But I don't think we saw her fight with a sword prior to like being given one of the swords, right? Like, so.
Right, because she does understand that guns are probably superior.
Well, there's that, but maybe there are some references to her fencing, because I don't remember, like she and Bradley, it's like Aikido, right? That's where they tangle, but So anyway, so there may be some fencing references that we'll pick up on and stuff, but it's kind of important. It's either she's a weeb or maybe she actually knows how to use them and stuff. So
both. Why not both?
Yeah. Sure. She got into the sword because she's a weeb, right? I've known people to learn Japanese because they just like the culture. So
I take offense at that.
Because you don't know Japanese.
You
or
actually
don't know the culture.
Yeah, it's like you do have some blood though, right? So,
Yes.
so I don't think if you actually have some Japanese lineage that you could be classified as a weeb, because if
Am
you
I
can,
not? I've
She's
been
not
calling myself
special.
a weeb for years.
At least
Oh,
3/4 of us here have blood. The only one who doesn't.
I
is
feel
the
like you're
Norwegian.
appropriating our culture there. So, white people are weebs, but no, I'm just kidding. So please don't cancel me for the love of God.
Andreas has a body. Andreas has a body pillow somewhere. He just hasn't shown us yet.
I mean, technically, I guess, but there's no anime girl on them.
Sure.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, he's poetical about it and whatever, but that's the Murphy I knew and loved. Practical violence ready at hand. Next to the swords was a small row of photographs and holders, maybe her family, a thick picture album with what looked like a real leather cover set open on the coffee table next to a prescription bottle and a decanter of some kind of liquid. Gin. The decanter was half empty. The glass next to it was completely empty, so kind of
Hell yeah,
she's
Murphy getting down,
we got
Not
a
a good
different
thing,
take on
though.
the scene, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just trying to put a positive spin on it. Okay, I'm just
no.
Yeah, mixing
Right,
pills and alcohol.
she's a functioning alcoholic.
Like
Okay, is
spin.
that better?
She's Irish. That comes with the territory. What are you talking about?
Maybe that explains the resistance to the alcohol and or the drugs, but not both, so yeah.
Is it resistance? Doesn't she pass out at the end of this scene?
Well,
Yeah, after a combination
the
of both.
description, yeah, exactly. I don't know if I pulled all of that out, but the description is she's tried alcohol, she tried Valium, neither of them worked entirely, so she started mixing them because that's the only way she could get to sleep, which is like, yeah, some people don't wake up from that. Just so we're clear, anyone who thought about trying that at home, don't. So,
And she's
anyway.
5'0" and 100 pounds, if that. And so this amount of powerful chemicals inside a tiny, tiny body is like she's doing a major number.
Right. Her liver is just in the boxing ring 24/7. So,
I mean, she might have the ability because of Irish, but
Too bad it won't catch up with her for like 12 years.
just so we're clear, I think that's racist. So,
Then
I
why
just
are you
wanna
wearing
call
the
that out.
shirt?
It's an advertisement. I don't know if that
For
can be.
for what?
He's an angel.
He's an Irish pub.
It's
Mac is
called
Scottish.
camouflage.
definitely.
They're the same thing. And you can write me a letter on that one.
Yeah, they'll be very angry about that.
Don't care.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, I watched her settle down in the corner of the couch in her oversized bathrobe. I find this is important because later on she goes to put something else on and she's got baggy shorts and a t-shirt on. And so I was like, what were you wearing besides that with the bathrobe? Just saying. Because visual media, we're going to have to worry about that. Her expression remote. She didn't look at me. I got more worried by the moment. Murphy wasn't acting like Murphy. She'd never passed up a chance to trade banter with me. I'd never seen her this silent and withdrawn. So it's like narrative, but we're going to have to just display that, he can give her concerned looks and stuff, or I frowned. If conversation is too much for you, we could play charades. I'll go first. I held up my hand with my finger spread. Murphy didn't say anything, so I provided her end of the dialogue. 5 words. I tugged at my ear. Sounds like, what is wrong with you? So, just his classic wit. So, over the course of the discussion, so he finds out the reason why she's so morose currently. I mean, this is just piled on to all the shit she's been dealing with for the last year anyway. But her first ex-husband died. He had cancer. She didn't even know he was sick. So she's all broke up about it. And then she hits Harry with the old, why did you lose your first love? It's like, as a matter of fact, I murdered her. Thanks for asking. Way to be sensitive, Murph. Jeez.
She doesn't know.
This
Well,
is how she knows.
but this is why people tell you to be nice to people, because you don't know the fights that they're fighting. And Harry has buried a lot of people already. Okay, so don't fuck.
I'm gonna
with
say,
them.
I think we've all watched enough or read enough media at this point that the second that question pops into your head, you should be like, no, because that's a protagonist thing. They're gonna tell me something now after I say that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But that would mean I'm the NPC in the story and not the main character.
You are all NPCs in my story, and quite frankly, I need to start writing better.
oh yeah. You for a, what is it? I want to say solopist, but that just sounds wrong.
Solipsist.
But yeah, is that what it is? So
Mhm.
yeah, you're not very good at it. I mean, here we are arguing about it. So maybe you should seek some help from your other part of your psyche. So
That one's a dick.
and why are we so reluctant to talk to a therapist if it's really just another part of our brain trying to help the main part of our brain? Just
Because we have to pay that part. We have to pay that part, and it hasn't earned it.
I'm
imaginary
reluctant because
money.
that part of my brain wants a lot of money.
right. But it's imaginary money. Just imagine yourself richer. Like, why are we here slumming it out?
I can't afford that.
Yeah, I definitely edge on the rich and powerful and power fantasy side. So I know it's not my story, because if it was, I'd be like zooming around doing superhero shit. So
No, see, I'm so ethical that I know how unethical I would be, which is why I don't give myself these things.
just so we're clear, I know we don't have superheroes because I did try to force lightning the car in front of me once. So there's
That's
a
super
dark
villain.
side inside of us. Yeah, well, it's super either way. So. But I was like, right, that's why we're not allowed to do magic. And,
Be better if it worked.
yeah.
Listen,
well,
we should get that choice to, force lightning people in traffic in front of us, because get out of my way.
I don't want to parallel a controversial ideology or, whatever you want to say. But I feel like if we had started out with force lightning, people would have gotten really polite and worked that out hundreds of years ago, so
Well, because
like if
there'd be only a few more
could do
people.
magic, yeah, right.
There wouldn't be as many people.
You
Yeah.
go back a couple hundred years and an insult means that you die, then yeah, you become really, really polite. And
Right.
rules of politeness and hospitality mean a lot.
Right.
We used to be very polite, and then we gave women the vote. Now we can't be polite anymore.
Is that a direct correlation? Is that what you're going for? 'Cause-
Obviously. It's around that time that Prohibition happened, so
Guys,
all
it's been-
downhill
it's
from
been
there.
Fun. It's been fun. Like, I really enjoyed our time together.
Now the prohibition thing, I guess I could get behind, but
Yeah.
That was a direct result of giving them the vote. So
and reversed a year later because even they realized they done fucked
no,
up.
it was like 3 or 4 years later.
No, it wasn't.
It went. Yeah, it wasn't only a year. It happened. It was a good while.
Yeah, it was a handful of years.
What?
And it was stupid. And it was, yeah, you could put the blame to a lot of women, in my
It was
opinion.
most
and
of the 30s, I think, or at least half the 30s.
I mean, I do got to remember that's all the gangster era, right? So,
And then we got World War II. So I mean, come on, look at this. Look at the correlation of events.
okay,
Women
so
get the
anyway,
right to vote. World War I.
we're canceled. So if you're hearing
Prohibition, World War
this,
II.
I have no idea how, but we're gonna continue and pretend anyway. So,
Fine.
Murphy lays out the fact that she's been having night terrors about the whole Kravos thing, and Harry tries to man her, for lack of a better word, because he tries to solve her problem and just be like, well, let's just think about this rationally, because of course she's an irrational person and hasn't tried to do that. And she basically says, I know he's dead. Neither of them, I don't think, acknowledged in the moment. I was skimming, so maybe they did, but it's like, just because Kravos is dead doesn't mean that there isn't another scary monster out there that might try to do this to her again later. So I feel like that's still a rational fear. It's not rational that Kravos shows up in the middle of the night anymore, but it's totally rational that she is terrified of this, because
I mean, he did it
Mab
once,
could be
so.
doing it for shits and giggles. She could just be like, you guys want to see something funny? Because she's like that, So anyway.
Listen, Kravos came back once. Why not again?
Oh yeah, and then of course I pulled out the dialogue. So Murph, he's dead. He's dead and gone. We watched them put him in the ground, which is important. Murphy snarled, which is her due. I know that. I know it, Harry. I know he's gone. I know he can't hurt me anymore. I know he's never going to hurt anyone again. She looked up for a moment, chancing a look at my eyes. Hers were clouded with tears. Important description. So
Mhm.
I still have the dreams. I know it, but it doesn't make any difference. So yeah. So
It's very PTSD-ish, right? And I think also this scene in general is very easy to convert to, because he's conversing here, and not that many thoughts, and those thoughts are mostly articulated. So it's a pretty easy scene to translate to the visual medium.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I just, part of why I pulled it out is because, there is a lot of description on, like, Harry gets all teared up when they're talking about Elaine and, him burning the house down. And, Murphy's getting teared up because she's frustrated and scared and just all of this stuff. So it's good notes for the actress, and for the actor and stuff like that. We're all wearing our feelings on our sleeves and, just trying to get through all this trauma that we've inflicted upon ourselves. So
have we decided which sleeves? Because we didn't know if it's a bathrobe or a t-shirt. Or...
Right now it's a bathrobe, because later she gets up to put something on and then it's, shorts and a t-shirt. Because my thought is, like, if it's, real, like, you're just gonna wear shorts and a t-shirt under that anyway, and like she would just have the robe like open, and whatever. But then she's like, let me go put something on very specifically, and like leaves the room, washes her face, comes back, and then she's dressed. And I'm like, okay. So
she wanted to look presentable,
right?
I mean, it's more important that she went to wash her face so that it wasn't as obvious that she had been crying, even though he had seen her crying. That's her trying to patch it up for herself. The robe is kind of incidental.
Well, I can tell that there's a difference between when the girls are reading the scene and the guys are reading the scene, because I didn't even put two and two together that she was trying to hide the tears.
Oh, but Harry explicitly says it, so you just missed it in your skimming?
So probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Harry's an idiot. There's no way he caught something I didn't, especially about women. So
Starborn?
Yeah, right. Starborn women, especially Starborn women. So
he killed one of those until she got better.
Yeah. Once she freshens up, for lack of a better word, they start talking about why he's there and the case. So they talk about Ronald Rule, and she's like, these are shots from the report of Ronald Rule's death. How did you get them? I didn't. I said, a client gave them to me. That's when he got them. I don't know where she got them. She rubbed her eyes and asked, what did she want from you? She wants me to find the person who killed him. Murphy shook her head. I thought this was an accident. I hear it isn't. Where did you hear that? A magic fairy told me. God, you're being literal, aren't you? So just fun dialogue. So while they're discussing the case and stuff, she notices his hand. So now we've got side conversation, where she's like, you're an idiot. This is not bandaged up. And stab wounds continue to ooze until they're properly patched. She's like, I tried to tell them that. Who? Never mind. So the wardens, because they're assholes. Because if anybody in the council knows first aid, like outside of like, Injun Joe and, his medical corps, the fucking wardens are going to know about stab wounds and first aid. So they're just being dicks, at that point.
Yep.
But
really, it was just the one warden.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
known to be a bit of a dick.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, are complicit because they didn't afterwards like come to Harry and just be like, you're bleeding, wipe yourself off or something, like just literally anything. So yeah.
Just
so
like Rush Hour.
Yeah. He asks more about the case. I think this is her again. So long story. Oh no, she was asking about his hand. So this is him. So long story. So the security guard on the building didn't see anyone come in. She peeled off the bandage with brisk motions. It hurt. She fished out some disinfectant. Cameras didn't pick up anything either, and there aren't any bursts of static to indicate someone using magic. I checked. So and he's,
Right.
he tells her good girl or something along those lines. So, but they're discussing, and it's like, slime, I said, it's clear and slippery. It evaporates in a few minutes, because he's starting to put together, like, the reason why he wanted to look at it is because there's something that they brushed off that he wouldn't, aka a clue. So something from the Never Never could have killed Rule. Murphy said, yeah, I said, or someone could have opened up a portal into the apartment building. There's usually some gunk left open when you open a portal, dust drifting out from the Never Never. So they could have opened a portal, then got out the same way, which I mostly highlighted just because I thought that was a cool detail, that it's not just like, creatures coming back and forth, that the matter of the Never Never comes out and leaves a residue. So what's your face?
A fairy can only enter a home with the intention, or they cannot do evil against that person. They cannot do harm, right? That's why, like, Leah and Matt can just walk into Harry's home, and they are restricted to only be helpful to him. Same thing with Cat Sith. So Thomas wants to piss off Cat Sith. Cat Sith then has to leave and attack him elsewhere. So the fact that Aurora was able to enter the home, or was it Lloyd Slate that did it?
Well, she could have opened the way and him gone through.
Right.
It was Lloyd Slate who did it, but also this was not a home or anything. They're in the stairwell in an apartment complex or an office building or something. So it's more of a public place,
Okay, it is not his threshold because
right. Because the reason why Chicago PD thinks that it was an accident is because he fell down some stairs, and the first guy on the scene saw that there was some slippery goo at the top of the stairs, aka the ice that Lloyd Slate used to grease the steps and push Ronald Rule down to make it look like an accident.
Why would Ronald Rule's mortal magic become gunk? Even fairy magic don't become gunk if they do anything like so, because they're so close to the mortal range.
Well, no, they make the comment on this later where summer fire met winter ice, and it just,
right.
That's water then at that point.
Okay, exactly. So it's not ectoplasm.
I mean, there could be residue if Aurora opens a portal, Lloyd Slate goes in, pushes Ronald Rule, or makes an icy stare or something like that. There's residue from the portal, and then Lloyd Slate leaves.
Okay, but just because, as far as I know, anything Fae related, and his powers come from Fae, and all that, he's mortal, does not become ectoplasm. Their bodies, the Fae themselves, they don't become ectoplasm. They're not made of never material.
Sure, right. But he talks about, even in this section, that like ectoplasm was the same stuff that Kravos used to shapeshift, right? So like ectoplasm, almost any time that you're adding matter through magic, it's coming from the Never Never. It's going to be ectoplasm. So it gets a little bit technical. What I think what's interesting here is, like, there is a difference between what Lloyd Slate was doing with ice magic and what Harry Dresden would do with ice magic. It's because Dresden is using it locally, and we've seen him usually use it as an opposite of his fire. And so he's actually pulling heat out of the environment rather than conjuring ice. But Lloyd Slate apparently was conjuring ice. So, and that might be just because he's not actually a wizard and he's getting it from the mantle, would be my argument. But
Harry's more flexible, because like we see him use more of the strict ice stuff as time goes on. But
sure,
that is also probably just a natural progression of him getting used to the mantle also.
Right.
That would be my thought.
Being a thug and not a wizard is going to be much more clumsy at it, and just bad in general, and leaving a lot of more traces, and not being able to do it so more efficiently.
Well, and it's Harry's he's less willing to use it. Like even when he first gets the mantle, when he's doing that fire flip to ice thing on all the Jaguar warriors, he's got the mantle, but he's still using it the way he would always use it, which is pulling the heat out and throwing it and pulling it out. But as time goes on, he, with his Infriga stuff, and he gets more reliant on it because, well, he's using it.
Right.
Anyway, back to this whole description of everything that happened. It needs to be highlighted that it was not inside his apartment yet.
Right. Well,
Um,
it'll be obvious because we'll have pictures for it,
Yeah.
and we'll have to do the CSI enhance,
Visual medium.
right? Except we won't enhance because Harry would blow up the computer, but it's funny for a joke. So yeah.
We should actually have that joke at some point where he goes enhance and the computer blows up.
Right. I love it. Hold on. Writing that down for my random ass notes. So
Just got to decide who he's going to blow it up on.
yeah, I know like Butters comes to mind, but
Yeah.
then like Molly's whole thing with the private investigator in Turncoat comes to mind, some stuff like that. So there's definitely a couple of places we can find
Somewhere in the police station, like if he does it to Rollins or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are wise to it though, because it's what is it, paranormal investigations or whatever their department is. So
Yeah. Whenever he walks by, they shut down all of their computers really quickly.
yeah, because even in this scene, Murphy's
Don't
like,
do it to
stay
Rudolph.
there.
This is
Yeah,
just
that-
bitter
that-
experience, probably.
That's even funnier, honestly,
Mhm.
having him do it to Rudolph like early on, and just he's like walking down the hall and he doesn't even give a shit, and he's just like enhance, and then so, and that's where now we've got motive. So
It's all one bad day. Who knew?
That's when it all started.
I like it.
we'll just do that as like an after credits. We'll do no other after credits the entire series, but this one time. And so everybody will always watch and just be like, why? Why did they do this to me?
What is the secret? It's like, we came up with a stupid idea one day and had to roll with it.
Right?
Kind of like the Marvel, well, not so much the post credits, but those shorts they did for the first phase with Coulson.
Yeah.
These stupid little funny.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like I would love to do some stuff like that, especially for like, side jobs and briefcases. Is like not all of them, I think, need to be fully featured, like episodes or something along those lines. And like that's a thing downstream, but I still want to talk about at some point, because it's like we've talked about a couple that I would like to highlight because I feel like they are worth it. And I think it would benefit to just like imagine you're watching the most faithful adaptation of the Dresden Files possible with the largest budget known to man, and you're following along, and right in the middle of Deadbeat, I guess, or something along those lines, you have this whole side story with frickin' Thomas and Dresden. You're like, wait a minute, that's not how this goes. Like we just break up the stream of the book by slotting in like that's not how they really work, but I think it'd be just kind of a fun thing to throw at the audience every now and again. It'd just be like, oh yeah, we're going to do a totally different episode now.
This is our filler episode for the season.
Right.
So instead of a clips episode or a recap or something, it's like where they're like, this is what happened this season so far, essentially. Remember how shows used to
He's just
those?
like sitting at Mac's bar counter every time. He's like, did I ever tell you the time? Just
That could
fades
be
into
fun.
the story.
Yeah,
And
depending
Max
on how
runs and says nothing. It'd be
Mhm.
funny.
depending on how 12 months go, maybe we'll have Lara like narrate it always the whole time. So, but
And then we get to the one story. It's like, did I ever tell you the time? And it's the story with the Mead and him and Kane and all that stuff. And at the very end, he's like, Harry, I was there. And then he takes like the beer bottle away from him because he thinks he's been drinking too much.
sure. Or he takes the mead away from him because Harry's.
But we
like,
don't have to. We don't
Straight
have to. Like, especially since Mac doesn't talk much, we don't even have to. Harry, I was there, because like visually, when he's telling the story, we'll see it's Mac, and then when we won't see he's talking to Mac. We'll kind of make it look like he's talking to some other one sitting next to him, but it's actually Mac he's talking to. And then when the episode ends and he's like done telling the story to Mac, then Mac just gives him like a deadpan look because he was there, and then takes the beer and walks away. That'd be really good.
because maybe somebody out there needs to be traumatized like I was just then. This deviates from how I normally feel about these sorts of things, but the actor that I had in mind to play Mac at this moment was Lance Reddick. And then I broke into a million pieces. And
I'm so sorry.
I was like, because just what he did with
He's got a great deadpan.
Charon is what they called him in,
John Wick.
Thank you.
Karen.
So, I know that's how I would say it, but he straight up called him Charon at one point. And I was like, did you guys screw that up or was that on purpose? But
Yes.
but yeah, so but yeah, like just he's had such a great stony look to just like stare at him and take the bottle and just like give him a glare and turn away, So
he actually does. I don't know if you've seen him, the Percy Jackson where he plays Zeus.
Yes,
there is like a moment towards the end when Percy meets Zeus, and he definitely does like the deadpan stare at him, and he's so good at it. Like he can convey so much with nothing.
Right. Yeah, it's so good. All right, so they're talking about it, and then another great line that I was like, we want to make sure we nail this is like, Murph, if this was something from the Never Never, it's going to be out of your jurisdiction. Because he almost says league.
Yeah.
Don't use triggering words. That's just going to make her get obstinate.
So that's it.
I mean, even if she doesn't take it out on him, she'll get obstinate and like get involved because she's being obstinate instead.
Yeah. When she wakes up, because she ends up passing out on the couch, and he tucks her in and leaves. So. And then he goes back to his apartment because Murphy gave him a bunch of crap about like, you need a shower and a shave and a nap and food. And he's like, you're totally right. Let me go back to my apartment so I can immediately run into Elaine. God damn it. I'm supposed to be sleeping, not having nightmares. So
speaking of the just like casually dropping the reminder of I killed my ex-girlfriend.
Very convenient foreshadowing right there to have that discussion.
Sure. Yep. And then the description. So I'm just going to say in advance, these are his words, not mine. And there she was.
She's hot.
A slender woman standing by my cold fireplace, all graceful curves and poised reserve. She wore a pair of blue jeans over her long coltish legs with a simple scarlet cotton t-shirt. A silver pentacle hung outside the shirt, resting on the curve of modest breasts, and it gleamed in the light from my readied blasting rod, which I think is also an important detail here.
Can't help it. This kind of sensual description. My readied blasting rod.
Right? When a man comes at you with his inflamed blasting rod. Her skin was pale like the inner bark of an oak, the living part of the tree. I was like, thank you for clarifying that. Her hair, the brown gold of ripe wheat, her eyes, the gray of storm clouds, her fine mouth twitched first into a smile, then into a frown, and she lifted elegant, long-fingered hands to show me empty palms. So,
have you ever? There used to be this artist on the web somewhere that like took book descriptions and drew them very literally.
Sure.
Which is very funny. So here she would have like you would have the inner bark skin, and she would have storm clouds in her eyes
and horse legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on. Dialogue's not important because he's an idiot, but
although to be fair, in this series, her having horse legs wouldn't be all that,
right. She's from
half satyr, so what?
Japan. Yeah, exactly. So
there are centaurs in this book, right?
Yeah, that she's working with on the side of. Yep.
Right. And then she walks past him, making a circuit around his apartment. It wasn't much of a tour. The place consisted of a living room, a tiny bedroom. The kitchen is pretty much just an alcove with a sink and a fridge. The floor is smooth gray stone, but I'd covered a lot of it with a few dozen rugs. My furniture was all secondhand and comfortable. It doesn't even clump close to matching. Bookshelves fill up most of the wall space, and where they don't, I have several tapestries plus a Star Wars movie poster Billy gave me for Christmas. It's not It's the old poster, the one with Princess Leia clinging to Luke's leg. There is some more description, but it's mostly like the trash and like the fact that you can't take 2 steps without stepping on laundry that he should have washed and stuff like that. So
he's been feeling a little down. Okay,
I get it.
Get
but
over it. You have company.
I'm not beating the man up. We're
But
looking
there's a
at
point
this
to this.
for
Like his apartment needs to be absolutely trashed because he's going to get the brownies
Yes.
at the end of this book.
right. And so it's another contrast, and it's important for handing it off to
And
our crew. So
counterpoint, EG, so that is get over it. You have company. He didn't invite her.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
He did deep
No, she-
down.
She
We
undid
just
his
talked
words
about
and
her.
everything.
Yeah,
right.
she broke in.
did his
No.
words. Is that
Burglar.
what we're
That's
calling
not
Yeah.
breaking in. It's entering without permission.
When you break down
was-
someone's iron walls to get
If
in,
you have the key combination, it's not really breaking in.
it? Literally, she talks about it here, and I pulled that out apparently. So because he's immediately distrustful, which is also ironic because the thing he just went through with Murphy. And
Mhm.
she's like, no, it's
I mean-
me. If I was something out of the Never Never, I have crossed your threshold uninvited.
yes,
Do you know anyone else who knows how you set up your wards? Anyone could have figured that out eventually. All right. Does anyone
Well,
else
maybe
know that
get
you
better
failed your
wards then.
driver's license? Yeah. Driver's test 5 times in 1 week, or that you sprained your shoulder, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why I pulled this whole thing out, but
Well, to be fair, based
God,
on his
Elaine.
other driving exploits, I feel like he probably shouldn't have been given that license.
right.
I mean,
Look,
it makes a
who
lot of sense for
hasn't?
him to be suspicious, considering she's supposed to be dead.
Right. Yeah.
I got better.
Right. Yeah, and she also has a line about like, I know you weren't expecting me, but I didn't think I'd be overdressed. So
it was a little harsh.
Well,
I mean,
If
what
a
is
little
in that
she
spot
here.
wearing
Also
at that
true.
point? So I'm asking for the fans.
what are we asking?
If she's overdressed, how would she downgrade her outfit to match
Bathrobe.
before? Okay, that was a safe first bet for sure. So and then of course they catch up on old times about how she betrayed him and everything, and she's like, yes, because that's what thralls do, you idiot and asshole. So like it just never occurred to you in all this time that she wasn't working for Demorne out of her own volition. So
She was.
He's
We
got
don't
a
know.
little bit of a martyr complex.
I'm absolutely still getting Kumori vibes. So like I'm almost be disappointed if she doesn't turn on him at some point. And I will give her an apology as is due. It's like if she doesn't, because it's like, sorry that we totally thought you were a turncoat, because it's so obvious that you would have been, because it would hurt Harry the most. Duh.
I'm the only one that has faith in her.
Really?
Yeah.
Truly.
I like
you
her. I like her the most out of all of
Now-
Harry's failed relationships.
Obviously. Like,
Excuse me?
I don't hate her or the character. I just like, and I'm not even saying necessarily that when she does turn coat on him, it's going to be her own doing, because I'm sitting here thinking while I'm reading this that it's like she's already been mind whammied once. So maybe the pathways are there and somebody else is able to figure that out and they're able to puppet her again. Right. But especially after White Knight, like she went up several notches in my book, like blowing the facade off.
That's
of the
when she
building.
was underdressed.
Maybe, or appropriately dressed considering the activities involved. But I'm just saying, if you blow the front off of a building, I'm interested. So,
I think if you do it fully naked, it's a little stronger of a message than wrapping the shower curtain around you. But
it does lack subtlety, and that's not
What
a
spell is
complaint.
it? Is that Fulminaris there? Or do we not know what
I-
spell?
thought
I
that's-
think it's whatever her lightning plugin spell is that she uses in her wands or whatever.
Is it? Okay, I thought he was the only one that did that, but
No, she has lightning whatever. I don't think
Right.
it's Fulminaris specifically, but she has
Right.
lightning power blast that she uses.
sure.
Is that him again? I remember that spell from, and not her.
I want to say yes, because he basically he wraps an electrical cord over a chain and then just uses it to like put in the socket or something, and he uses that on a Denarian, right? So
She that's her tool,
okay,
because she was smart enough to think I can just plug it in and he was like having to do all the more complicated ways of powering something.
Gotcha.
It's like, how'd you do it? I cheated.
It's very kung fu, actually, using your environment as part of your fight. But anyway,
He'll learn that soon enough.
He is learning, I guess. We got to give him his due for how the
There are
vault
time.
is,
Listen, he uses the
with
ley
Hades.
line. That's part of the environment.
I'm thinking with Asher was the better argument. So
Well, yes, the whole thing, the ice trial was the environment. He gets there.
Yeah. He
After having all of
used
his tools taken
several
away.
times, that book. Yeah.
Mhm.
So he does pretty good with. Is it Ariana? Am I screwing up the name? Ortega's wife.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ariana.
Yeah. With that duel, very fantastic too. So
Yeah.
like
Didn't really need the environment
some of
then.
it-
though.
He did
Some of
create the environment that he used at
Yeah.
that point. He made the fog that he then made ice out of.
right.
Mhm.
Some of his best work is while he's snarking off and they're just totally leaning into it, and then he just like blasts them with their own magic. Like, yeah, those are some of my favorite moments for sure. At least up there with like him and Ramirez's duel, which tops all. of those.
Drowning in a denarian with an aquarium. That's using the environment.
Some of the other stuff, like the big stuff, like in Changes and Battleground. Well, that's all really cool. I think the vampire thing might be up there with the duel.
Bowling
But-
for vampires.
Hmm?
With vampires. The bowling with vampires.
No, the when they
The
fight in the
turkey.
graveyard, like that whole fight in Battleground might be up there with being as cool as the duel, because they're cools there and they're like lipping off to each other, and the river shoulders comes in and it's cool.
Yeah.
But the big stuff, it's not as impactful. I feel like as like how cool that duel was in general. I feel like I agree with you. It's one of the coolest moments.
I hear what you're saying about the graveyard and everything, and there are some of my favorite moments are out there. It is greatly diminished because they get their asses kicked, and that hurts my feelings. So yeah,
That just makes the rematch
emotionally-
potentially more satisfying.
Obviously, that just makes it cooler. Like in a okay, they don't always win kind of way, and like usually when it comes down to the actual showdown, is very few times Harry, while getting beat up and like fuck, and maybe someone else helps him, but usually he comes out on top because he's the protagonist.
Sure.
But like with against Cowell, this is one of the times where it's just like, oh, I'm so far out of my league right now, it's actually insane, and the fight's already started.
I threw a car on him. What am I supposed to do?
I mean, that's what came to mind. It's like the showdown with Dracula is going to be underwhelming because he's just going to literally drop a Titan from orbit onto him. So it's just be like, it's really funny that you think that you can win this. It's like, what's that whistling noise? It's like, well, he's already dropped an anvil. He's already dropped a turkey. Next, it's a Titan. I mean, where else do you go up from there? So it'd just be like, yeah, see, funny thing, I called in a close airstrike, from orbit.
Well,
and she
Ebenezer did do a satellite.
See, there's a history of dropping things on vampires' heads. I think I cracked the code. So,
You don't go for the heart. You don't go for burning them. You
So that's
simply nuke them
how
from orbit.
Laura gets taken out. She gets dropped.
The only way to be sure.
right. Okay. Thank you. That's gonna
I
warm
guess
my heart all week.
technically,
But
the cave does like cave in when blown up, right? So they did drop like cave of rocks like on all the white core vampires that were still down there.
see, the problem is you mentioned Lara getting taken out that way, and I immediately took it in a dirty direction. So it's not as good as her reference, but but yeah. So yeah, she's gonna get something dropped on. Sorry. The terrible part about this is, are we all thinking the same thing, or are we thinking slightly different things? So
Oh,
Yes,
probably
and
all
no.
slightly different.
yeah, right.
I was thinking she would drop Dresden's pants.
Oh,
Okay, well,
See?
so same line of thought.
very different.
Something blasting rod.
It's readied,
It is. And
For the
glowing.
visual part,
primed even.
right? When he does sit down on the couch, it does go out, right? So more important visual, because the room gets dark, and he talks about that and everything. So that'll just be fun to film to get us on track and out of the gutter for a moment. So
Out of the gutter. What's wrong
yeah,
with you?
well,
We live in the
well,
gutter.
I mean, some of us live there. We just visit, above ground. So.
Mhm.
So yeah, they talk about how she was a thrall and tried to help murder him, and she didn't try to fight it at first, but then she kind of realized that she didn't want to murder Harry, I guess, because he's the main character, and then she ran away, and he looked for her for years, which I feel like is important to highlight, because there's a lot of media recently where they're like, man, I've been looking for like 6 months, they're probably dead. And it was like, that's how we do things in the real world. I get it, but like, come on, you're a superhero, man. Like, if you haven't checked like every planet, are you even trying? So
I mean, again, he's kind of dumb.
because she went to Fairy and he just didn't even stop to think.
Yeah. It's like, why would she have gone to Fairy? That's the crazy thing to do.
To be fair, up until book 3, he did not go into the Never Never / Fairy, if at all possible to avoid.
Well,
That is also
there was
true.
this
He did have
one time.
limitations because Leah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
fair. That
He-
that would be in place by now. So by then, because I mean, it
Yeah.
would have been like immediately after the duel, so kind of fresh on his mind that he won the duel, therefore she's going to want to collect. So yeah,
Also, it's never stated. I wouldn't be surprised if some of his attempts were thwarted by someone like Leah to either try and get him to
Like
go
Anya.
in there or just to not
She could be
cash that check
untrackable.
until later.
Right.
Part of the protection she received by the Summer Court could be that she's there and she's untrackable while there.
sure.
Well, yeah, Morgan gets that later, and that was just a little favor.
Right. I was going to say that sounds reasonable too, because like if Leah knew and if she could have managed it, she absolutely would have used Elaine as a bargaining chip to get at Harry, so and Leah is not a slouch when it comes to entities in the Never Never that we've encountered. She's in the top 10, not in like the top 5, but she's pretty up there, so
I mean, whatever it takes to get another pup, right? Like, that's
apparently. So some people it's cats, her it's dogs, apparently. So
where is my cat?
plotting to kill you
Probably
wherever
important
they are.
questions you should
I
figure
mean, he was
out.
over here last time I looked, but he snuck away, a little master.
Are the knives locked up in the kitchen?
They're in a knife block. He doesn't have
So no.
thumbs.
No, when does that ever stop the cat?
Yeah,
Yes.
Cats don't have thumbs. Oh, well, then clearly they can't get up to anything
Yeah, I'm dead.
troublesome.
I'm dead.
your door is slightly open, so I don't know if it's because they left or if they're already in the room with you. So
That would be a fun way to end this episode.
Me getting stabbed to death by a cat? That's funny. I mean,
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Hilarious.
It would
I was gonna say, like,
probably put us
you
on the
underst-
map.
I was going to say, do you
guys
understand
on the
how
map.
much our ratings would skyrocket if
Yeah.
you get killed by a cat right now?
then we would be canceled, but still. Like,
No, we wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
We didn't kill him. The cat did.
yeah, but
Yeah.
violent.
Norway would get canceled.
There's no way that would happen. Come on.
This has been an episode of the Dresden Files podcast.
No, you've got 2 minutes before you can say that.
I'm good with it. Let's just roll those.
All right,
credits.
fine. Close us out, but do it properly.
This has been an episode of Dresden File podcast. We stream live on YouTube at what time do you want to use, guys? Okay, so let's settle it.
Eastern Standard Time, because
Okay, so-
we're in America.
So when do we
Here's
go
the
live
capital
Eastern
of the
Standard
free
Time?
world.
1 p.m.
What? 1 p.m.
1 p.m. Eastern.
1 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern,
And who cares Swedish time?
and nobody cares about my time apparently. So 1 p.m. Eastern. We would love a subscribe for you, a like, a comment on YouTube. That helps a lot. You can also watch us on any podcast app you like to use, right, Alex?
What?
The-
Sorry,
you can-
slightly distracted by this.
you can listen to us on any podcast app, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, as soon as I do
we're
the upload,
slightly
which I'm
distracted
still
by what's
behind on.
happening behind you. So
Oh, you're right. The cat. Yeah,
Oh my god!
I'm done.
Yeah, you
And you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/brokenjars to give us some money. You can get to join our Discord there where we have epic gift wars. Or you could just, talk shit to us. It's fine. You paid us. We'll take it.
I was going to
We're
say, I don't
cheap
think
that
any
way.
of you have posted a GIF in the last month other than me. So you're all kind of slacking on the work.
I know that I have, and I know exactly one of them that I have. So, suck it, nerd.
You know what? No, I don't.
I believe that is all I have to say. Take us out.
You did. That's it. We're done.
Engage.